Well, well, well. Look who we have here. If it isn't Ian, the person who's definitely going to fail the pop quiz that I have for him today.
It's me.
That's you.
That sounds just like me in every single class in high school. And you sound exactly like every single one of my teachers.
That's beautiful. I actually love that story for you. So Ian, I have a question. You know, obviously we've been diving into the decadent, to the gluttonous, to everything that is bad for you. I want to reference one pop culture song that dives into something similar. Of course, we all remember the 2003 smash hit Milkshake by, I guess, Kelly's? I honestly don't know how you say her name.
Boy,
you know what song I'm talking?
You thought this was going to make me look stupid. You can't even pronounce Kellis's name.
You know what? I'm still confident that you'll look stupid. So, so Ian, let me ask you. You know the song I'm referring to, right?
Yeah, of course. I'm pretty sure I feverishly masturbated to it when I was in 6th grade.
Oh, that is very interesting. Okay, well then
name a music video I didn't masturbate to in 6th grade. Let's be honest.
So, when she mentions her milkshake, you know, the one that brings all the boys to the yard.
That's where they're going. Okay.
Yeah. What does she mean by the word milkshake? What does she describe? Huh? Blowjob.
Blowjob. Yeah.
Interesting. And where did you come to understand this?
I don't know. I think there was one guy in 6th grade that was like, bro, my brother said she's talking about blowjobs. And we were like, whoa. It was just like this thing that we heard about, and we were like, whoa, when do we get one of those?
Well, Ian, I hope you will be disappointed to know that you were wrong all along, all of these years. Yes, in fact.
Was it a culinary thing? Was it actually a milkshake?
No, it was still a metaphor, but apparently in an interview with the Associated Press, she said that a milkshake refers to one's self-confidence, and here I quote, "A milkshake is the thing that makes women special. It's what gives us our confidence and what makes us exciting." And I'm hoping that this is literal and not, again, talking about a blowjob, because if that's the case, then it's actually way worse than I think.
Okay, well, I'm going to Google My Milkshake unedited lyrics. What is the song Milkshake talking about? Something sensual, even suggesting breasts or butt. I don't know. It sounds like she's changed her tune on this a couple times.
You think so? Well, she says I think I'm going to stick with what she says to the Associated Press, because obviously that's who she would be the most honest to. Not her friends or family.
All right, I'll accept it. Wait, Quora has an answer. You know how much I love Quora.
What does Quora have to say?
Someone said it's an it factor. All right, well, I guess I was just, me and my fellow compatriots in 6th grade were just blinded by our horniness, and we believed the milkshake was what we wanted it to believe.
Get your head out of the gutter, little 12-year-old Ian, and with that, let's go ahead and start the show!
Shaye, how are you doing?
Ian, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You are now connected to the internet. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I still feel full from last night's mukbang. Gastrointestinally, a little bit of discomfort this week. The amount of recoiling done per what the hell I watched on YouTube. God, are we ever going to be in a good place? Is there ever going to be a point in any of these immersions where I look at the camera and I'm like, shit, I feel so good. I can't believe I found this amazing subculture that I think is going to be great for my lifestyle.
You know what's funny is, well, clearly as guinea pigs, like we get the good and the bad, and most of the time we get the bad. But, again, I know you didn't like it. I still love Total Enlightenment Camp. Like, it was not that painful for me to sit down and be one with myself. So you got to take the good with the bad. This one just happens to be horrific and terrible, but that's fine. It comes with the territory.
I don't know why, for some reason, I just imagined you like in a trance state, like, yes, my milkshake does bring the boys to the yard. Low tier joke, 2 out of 10. All right, anyway, moving on. Okay, fair enough. I didn't hate Total Fucking Enlightenment Camp, but I'm certainly not enjoying mukbang. I will tell you what I am enjoying. It has given me a lot to think about, stuff I don't think I would have thought about otherwise. So I guess the other big question is, why is mukbang something people should give two shits about? Is there a cuss word version of give two shits about? Like, I'm just looking at expanding my vocabulary after Jack Off City in our discussion on emotional masturbation in emo rap camp. I'm thinking I could like soften the blow when I deliver, euphemisms, metaphors, turns of phrase.
Well, that sounds like a great practice for you, Ian, and I am 100% on board. Are you familiar with just the simple English verb to care?
I'll have to look that up later, but that's good looking out. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Try that one out.
Why should people to care about about mukbang? Well, Shaye and I stumbled upon some facts and some information. We're going to spit those out at you now. First and foremost, I feel like this is always at the top of our list. Mukbang has been incredibly lucrative for some. Some mukbangers reporting making millions of dollars. The famous guy whose name I'm gonna mispronounce, like Nikado Avocado, boasting buying what appears to be a mansion from which he eats burgers in a tub overlooking the skyline. But there's other reasons that might be more cause for concern. Shaye, please indulge us with some of those.
Well, you really took me on a ride here. We're talking about Nikado Avocado's net worth. Apparently, it's 1.5 million, which that's not crazy. He's rich, you know what I mean? But that's not super crazy rich. He's a weird dude. But anyway, why you should care. There's a guy named Nikado Avocado making $1.5 million off of binge eating and throwing tantrums online, which is the most, his fucking displays are very insane. If you haven't checked it out, do yourself the disservice and go check out some of his videos. But some other reasons you should care. Ian found this amazing article, I guess entitled "The Obesity Epidemic Accounts for More Than $170 billion in Surplus Medical Costs per Year in the United States, study." And
I guess I should have deleted that last part. Sorry, Shaye. Sorry to have made you read that.
You know how literal I am. I'm like a computer. But obviously something to talk about, the obesity epidemic, some other issues involving obviously like body positivity and how that correlates in these same things. Ian, you read one.
There's also a lot of moralizing claims that it glorifies eating disorders and promotes unhealthy lifestyles. And given the prior fact we just read, one wonders if this is, cause for concern or reason to give pause. And as we mentioned or will mention in our darling of a segment, Ignorance in a Bottle, this is yet another Korean export kind of taking the country by storm. So it's interesting that, K-pop makes sense. K-pop is visually appealing, audibly stylistic. I was about to say audibly, and I'm like, that's not a word.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting, especially, from Korea, another part of the K-wave. It is curious, and I know we'll talk about this a lot later, but it feels like this might be something that may have come and gone, maybe unnoticed or flown under the radar for a lot of people. And so we'll talk about that later. But I guess, Ian, I don't want to keep anyone on the edge of their seats any longer. Is there anything else we need to say before we throw it back to those idiots from the past in Ignorance in a Bottle?
Those sniveling fools. No, I think let's watch them, just kind of crawl and grope towards capital T truth, a form of enlightenment that we now here in the present can certainly enjoy. And, not those two. Oh, there it is. There's a song. Bye. There's no time to talk. Here it is. Ignorance in a Bottle.
How long do you think that intro is? It's 2 notes. Boop, 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 boop. Ignorance in a bottle. Ignorance in a bottle. In a bottle. Hello and welcome Welcome to Ignorance in a Bottle, an ignorance time capsule where we lay bare our biases and preconceptions long before our immersion to showcase exactly how dumb we sound before consulting the almighty ignorant... The almighty internet. Because after all, we're only this ignorant once. Ian?
The new proposed name for the internet is now the ignorant, and ooh, it's deep. Oh my God, it's so deep.
Wow.
James Cameron couldn't get a boat down there. That's how fucking deep it is.
I thought you were going to make a Jaden Smith dig, but I guess not.
Oh, fuck, man. That was a really missed opportunity. You know what? I don't know. What I anticipate that one day I'll meet Jaden Smith and, I'll just be like, man, I was really hard on you. And he's going to turn to me and he's going to go, who the fuck are you? All right. And that's going to be the end of our interaction. And as his security is dragging me away, I'm going to be like, I take it all back. I take it all back. Fuck you.
Coming in really hot in this ignorant bottle. So Ian, why are we here today? What are we talking about?
We're talking about mukbang, all right? So mukbang, for those of you who are unfamiliar, and I already know this because I'm incredibly fucking intelligent, mukbang comes from the Korean verb mukda, to eat, and then the Korean noun bangsong, which means broadcast. So smush those together, what do you get? Eating broadcast, eating on camera, fucking shoveling food down your gullet for the world to see. Why? That's what we're here to figure out. Shaye, why do you think people are doing this?
What's going on here?
What's the deal with mukbang?
I have no idea, Ian. I feel like in this context, you're gonna know in this context alone, you're gonna know a lot more about this camp than I do. Because I think you were the one who told me that this thing even exists.
I think so, but it's funny because this is our second camp that is technically a cultural export, and it's the second camp that's come from Korea.
Right.
So I mean, like, kudos to Korea. Great job bringing us your products. A little concerned about the quality of the exports, but I mean, here we are nonetheless. So we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. Just out of curiosity, like, I'll tell you a little bit about my experience with it. But like, what's yours first? Like, I know that I apparently told you. Did you do any like research outside of that? Did you watch one video and then you were like, we're fucking doing a camp on this? Like, yeah. How did we get here?
I don't know exactly how we got here, but I will tell you, I have never seen a mukbang video. I've only seen stills from a mukbang video. So I'm coming in here very ignorant, which I'm excited for. I really want to like really test to see what I think, like just the preconceptions I have so far and how they test after experiencing it. But I don't really know anything about. All right, I'll tell you what I think I know about it. I think I understand pretty well that it's people sitting down and live streaming themselves into a food coma, and that's about it.
Okay, all right. I don't know. I feel like you're not totally off the ball here, but when you first hear about it, like my first reaction upon learning about mukbang was literally like, fucking why? Just someone like hearing about it, going, what's that? And then someone describing it to me, and the next words out of my mouth being, why? Why does this exist? Why do we have this? Why does this exist? So I will tell you a little bit about like from whence it came, and then like I don't know. I guess we can kind of evaluate maybe where we think it is now. So apparently, like in Korea, it's extremely, or it was. I know that the culture is changing, but even when I was there, it was extremely unpopular to like eat alone. It was kind of like a cultural faux pas to be like, oh God, you're eating alone? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're a social pariah, clearly, because you can't get anyone to dine with you. I mean, like, eating culture is incredibly important in Korea. Like, literally, one of the ways to ask people, like, how are you doing, is to say, like, 밥 먹었어? Like, did you eat? So, here we're just like, hey, how are things going? How have things been? Like, they'll fucking ask if you've eaten food. Which is interesting. So mukbang culture apparently stemmed from the fact that people didn't like eating alone, so they would put on these eating videos to keep them company. Like, that's how it started. It stems from this kind of cultural alienation, and now it's just out of control, I feel like.
Well, when you first started saying that, I thought you were saying it was a rebellion of a cultural norm, and they're like, well, fuck that. I'm going to eat alone and show everyone how alone I am, and I'm going to eat way too much, is what I thought you were going to say, but actually it's a little sadder.
It's a little darker, yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. How'd you learn all this? So you already know quite a bit about this.
I've been in restaurants with some like famous mukbangers in Korea. Like
it's a weird brag, Ian. It's a very weird brag.
Trust me, I'm not bragging about this. All right, like this isn't like, yeah, one time I was at a Burger King and John Travolta was in there fucking weeping over a Whopper. No, it's
very similar to that.
No, but like I remember being in Korea and like the people that I was with like kind of tapping on me and pointing and going, "Hey, that person is so and so. Like that's Hungry Joe. He's the famous mukbanger." And like them having their little camera stand and like literally looking into the camera and just being like, "Wow, these noodles are amazing!" And me just going, "I want to leave this restaurant right now."
Were the noodles amazing?
They're never that good. The food is never that good.
Okay, so we're gonna be doing this. Like, are we gonna be eating lots of bad noodles? Because that doesn't sound great.
So, I don't know much about what it's become. Here's what I do know. I know that what it stemmed from was that, and then I read this line. You're probably gonna hate it, but it made me really think about this. Like I turned back to it, and it says like. You know what? I'm not going to read it because you're going to hate it so much. But like, I'm just to summarize, I feel like once something starts and it becomes like a cultural phenomenon, people try to figure out how to capitalize on it. And the way to capitalize on it is to kind of become more and more outrageous. So it started as this thing that's like, hey, like you're eating alone, I'm eating alone. I'll talk to you about the things that I'm eating. It's like you can have company. And, that's the first one. And then the second one has to be like, like I'm not just going to eat a normal fucking meal. I'm going to eat 100 meals and like you're going to watch me explode and die.
So I'm getting the impression from you that this is not something that you like or respect. Is that fair?
This is something I had kind of been struggling with, even thinking about this camp, is like, all right, when we started Makeup Camp, I think I went into that with a very negative perception. And leaving it, I was like, the makeup art, like YouTube makeup artists, like making their own videos, putting on their makeup, fucking talking while they're doing it, and then like editing. And like, I didn't realize there was that much skill that was going into it. So I think that I'm under the impression or understanding that like mukbangers will probably have some sort of talent. Like imagine entertaining somebody as you eat like 10 pounds of noodles so hot that they're used to like peel paint off of lead buildings. So I think to that end, yeah, like I'll be like, okay, like respect. But then I anticipate that I'm going to be very grossed out watching these videos. And I wonder if that's like a bad take.
I mean, I don't know. It's your take. That's like my gut reaction too. Like, fuck, man. Yeah, I don't know.
Gut reaction, huh?
I will say that's my impression of this. It's like it's literally like taking a deadly sin and like broadcasting it, like and just being like, here, look at this disgusting, historically what's the word I'm looking for? Like sacrilegious thing that I'm just showing you for, I don't know, for like fame.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that was one of my thoughts going into this was like, is my negative reaction to this rooted in like Puritanism? Like this idea, like, is this a religious reaction? And it's funny, again, like it's no secret to anybody who watches us that we are like secular Satanists. So again, like it's funny me being like, oh, that gluttony. And then also having that thought like, well, isn't our disgust of this like fundamentally religious? And like, should in that sense, should we not be grossed out by it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. You can say it's like, yes, it comes from like a religious context, but it also comes from like a cultural context, like where you shouldn't be eating in excess. Like, I mean, we talk about like, even we talk about this all the time, like in the West, just like overconsumption of anything, where it's like, well, that seems bad. And now we're like commodifying overconsumption to consume. We're consuming someone else's overconsumption by watching it, by digesting their video, so it's like second layer overconsumption or second degree overconsumption. And so like, I don't know, a part of me still thinks like my gut reaction to it is like, okay, well, this actually seems pretty weird, but of course I want to come into this with an open mind and also like understanding that this is like a different culture's export. I want to try and make sure like I'm not like jumping the gun or jumping to any conclusions. And like one of the things that I was like coming back to this, I was just like, it seems like Korea from my perspective has a lot of like kooky things, I don't know how to like else describe, like K-pop at first felt very kooky to me. I was like, oh wow, this like bubblegum hyper pop, like very intense, and like the K dramas and like the K what is it? Reality TV shows where they like have drawings on everything and like overloaded sound effects. Like all of that from my like Western perspective feels very kooky, and this just feels like another kooky export.
Well, I feel like we've totally kind of made it our own a little bit. So it's like, yeah, like, so when we're doing this, here's my question. Like, I assume we're going to be watching like the American versions of mukbang. Like, I was under the assumption that we were going to be diving into like,
That's a great question.
Whatever weird perverted version of mukbang we've made over here. I don't mean perverted as in like sexual, but like,
Sure.
morphed, warped,
perversed, or
distorted. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess like I'm sure we can find some Korean Americans or English-speaking Korean people who are mukbanging that we can watch, right, for like a more authentic experience.
Is it inauthentic? I mean, like.
You're saying, is it inauthentic if the Americans do it?
Like, I mean, because it's become its own phenomenon over here. Like, there are several like famous American mukbangers now. Well, like, it's no longer like, it's. I don't know. I bet you we could find a mukbang in like almost any developed nation with an internet connection. There is probably some fucking British guy going, "Oi, today I'm gonna eat 100 cans of beans. I am."
Well, I only question if it's authentic because you called it perverse. You're like the perverted, distorted version. I'm like, okay, well then the other must be the authentic, right? So
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
As soon as we get our grubby little hands on anything, like we're fucking it up. Look at what we did to rock and roll.
So okay, but that's an important logistical question. Like, should we be watching? I mean, because you can understand maybe you should watch the Korean ones because you can understand it.
Maybe we should, maybe we should start with the Korean ones so we kind of get an understanding of like where it started,
God,
and then we should like move over to the American ones and kind of like see what changed, because I am curious to know that now that we've had this like discussion a little bit.
Honestly, like I'm not gonna know what's changed when I watch the Korean one.
Well, I mean, like even if you could put on subtitles, I'm pretty sure. Like you can put on English subtitles. Like I bet they're there.
All right, if they're there, I guess. God, that feels like so
much
watered
work.
down.
Oh no, I gotta read.
No, not work. It just feels like a watered down. Like I'm watching someone's translated captions. It's not even like, you're gonna lose so much of the feeling, so much of the energy, so much of the pizzazz.
I love that you say that, because honestly, like this is what mukbang feels like to me. Like it feels very much. It's literally, and it's funny because like I know I'm like the fucking cultural dork. But it like my thought about this is like, all right, where are we in like this fucking historical moment where we literally are like what stage of capitalism are we at where we're indulging in the consumption of consumption? Like like the entertainment that we are consuming is somebody consuming sustenance. And to me, that's just incredibly fucking bizarre. Like, I mean, talk about like the logic of the simulacrum just fucking collapsing on itself. And it's just like, yeah, fuck eating. I'd rather watch somebody eat.
Well,
like
that's what I was just saying. Yeah, like it's like second degree consumption. Like we're like.
I'm glad that you said that. Like, because like I was having the same thought.
So, but I'm curious because when you're bringing it up, I'm wondering like, do we not have like a history of this? Like even in the West, like I'm just thinking of like hot dog eating contests, where like people would like all gather to watch someone eat as much as they can, and like I guess the difference there is they're also doing it as fast as they can.
And again, like I think that's just a comment on like how technology changes the culture, right? And just like transforms everything into like televisual images. Because I'm sure you're right. Like I'm sure that like mukbang is probably inspired by eating contests, like whether consciously or un. So I'd be curious to know like if there is some sort of like thread or connection there. I would. Part of me wants to reach out to. Do you remember, there was like the Japanese guy. Oh God, I don't know if he was an American or if he was like, from Japan. Fuck me.
The hot dog
but,
champion guy?
He was like famous for fucking eating hot dogs really quickly and a lot.
He ate like
and
two
I guess
at a
he
time.
Like trained.
Yeah. I remember that guy. Yeah.
I almost kind of want to talk to that guy.
Well, if we can get him, let's do it,
He's probably, what fucking kills me is that he's probably a fucking millionaire.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm curious actually where that skill ends you.
He's probably laughing all the way to the fucking bank, laughing, farting, and shitting all the way to the bank. It's like hot dogs literally fall out of his fucking sphincter.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So one other thing I thought about this was, and I think I heard this, but I'm not totally sure. So maybe I'll see if you have any more information on this, but. I'm pretty sure China is cracking down on mukbangers. Did you tell me this? Or I heard this like somewhere that China is cracking down on mukbangers for criticisms of food waste.
So here's kind of my thought on this. Like, our impulse to look at people consuming all this food and like point our finger at them and be like, gluttony. Is this going to be like a Western individualist thing where we're like blaming people when real and like taking kind of attention away from like industrial scale food waste? Like I honestly, like, I don't think 100 people eating a fuck ton of calories is like really like that much of a problem. Because like the truth of the matter is that I think that's just kind of indicative of like the way that we like rationalize and are okay with food waste on an industrial like level. I don't know if that necessarily answered your question, but I mean, like, your comment made me go there mentally.
Sure.
Because like that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, is I anticipate that I'm going to be really judgmental, and I'm wondering if that judgment is like extremely misguided.
I don't know, man. That's why we come out with all this stuff. That's why we put our biases on display to just like see, like, we can jot them down and revisit them after we've done the experience. I don't know. I mean, my gut reaction, like if I feel like I like it or not, like, I don't think I like it. I don't anticipate liking it, and I do anticipate thinking that it's gonna feel weird to watch, and it's gonna feel probably even weirder to do. Actually, I guess that's a really interesting point. I'm considering, like, what I'm saying, like, do I like it? Like, I don't think I'll enjoy watching it. That sounds kind of boring to me, unless there's maybe like a really good, like Seth Rogen doing a mukbang. Like, maybe I would love that. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds like maybe awesome. Or like Post Malone. Like, I feel like that would just be so fucking weird. Elon Musk doing a mukbang. Like, I would probably watch that,
Yeah, and again, like, this is, I don't know, like, it's just the whole appeal of like celebrities doing anything, right? Like, we'll tune into that. But I mean, that's like the whole premise of comedians in cars getting coffee, like,
or Hot Ones or whatever. It's the same thing. Yeah.
I mean, again, like, I thought of that too. I was like, oh, how is this much, like, how much different is this than like Hot Ones, right? Like, you're just watching somebody struggle through a food challenge.
Right.
And like, honestly, like, it's funny. Like, if you remove the fact that like a lot of the people in these shows are celebrities, it's incredibly fucking boring. Like, it's so fucking, like, I've seen Hot Ones and I'm like, this is boring as shit. Like, I'm like literally watching Paul Rudd eat hot wings. So I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, if Paul Rudd wasn't eating these wings, I wouldn't be watching this. I'm barely watching it now. I'm turning it off.
Oh my God. So what do you anticipate, like, the actual experience being like for you? And like, I was like, what are you planning, like, just again, logistically, like, you're going to be eating a lot of food. Like, what kind of food do you think you're going to be eating, I guess? And like, how often are we doing this? Like, how much weight are we going to put on?
These are concerns that I don't think it's going to do. It's just going to scare us away from the immersion. So I don't think it's best to think about it. I think thinking about it defeats the purpose of mukbang.
That's hilarious.
I do, honestly. That's where I'm at. And I will say, like, I know there's some vegan mukbangers, so like, you're probably going to want to do some research into that. But I anticipate this being an incredibly unhealthy camp. I'm assuming we're going to do something like every other day. Because otherwise, I'm sure we're going to, like, I think mukbangers put up a video once a week.
I think you're
right. So maybe we should push it to like every third day or something, just to give our digestive systems time to breathe. But I do that. I think that part of the point of it is like extreme food challenges. Like, either you're eating a lot of something, you're eating something very specific or particular or that was hard to make, or you're eating something very spicy, and like, it's just the spectacle of like I don't know, man. Like, my opinion on mukbang is like, this is just proof that we haven't evolved at all away from like late Rome, Colosseum bloodlust. Like, it's just morphed to like a softer, gentler, modern version.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know, Ian. I like that you're skirting the weight gain question, because actually that's the thing I'm most interested in.
Don't think about it, all right?
No, not only am I going to think about it, I'm going to go weigh myself today. I'm going to jot that number down, and then I'm going to revisit this at the end of and how brain, how feel. That's how I'm ending it. How much weight did I gain?
How much weight I put on.
Because I care about, you know what I'm also thinking? I think I'm going to try to do as much exercise as I can, and maybe like fast until this, or maybe that's a terrible idea. Like, maybe
I think it's a terrible idea.
Maybe I'm just gonna
fasting,
maybe my stomach will be so like shriveled.
It'll shrink, and then you'll explode and die, and then more people would cheer on your fucking demise as you die on a live stream.
Yeah, all right. So it's very interesting how hot we're coming at this. I'm excited to do it. I guess I don't know if I'm gonna go vegan or if I'm just gonna go vegetarian myself. Like, I'm not really sure like what the vibe is, because honestly, dude, like, eating, like, I'm just gonna be eating like a ton of like fried rice or like
that could
noodles.
Honestly, that could be part of your challenge. Like, you could literally just be like, I'm gonna eat 10 heads of broccoli. Like, that's mukbang.
Huh. Actually, that doesn't sound terrible. I could eat 10 heads of broccoli.
I would watch that.
Maybe I could just do, honestly, I wouldn't mind actually eating a ton of vegetables. Maybe even raw vegetables. Dude, you know what? Like, I've been eating a lot of just like lightly sauteed vegetables with salt and oil, and fuck, I'm so into that right now. Maybe I'll just do that. Huge amounts of slightly sauteed, salted and oiled vegetables. Yeah. All right, maybe we'll make that the thing. Well, I guess this bottle seems like it's coming to an end. Ian, anything else that you want to say for our lovely listeners?
I do want to say that, we are going to be, in the spirit of mukbang, we're going to be putting this on video. So you can see a lot of this on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, maybe, who knows, you'll figure it out. I also want to say, for those who can't hear us, Shaye and I, it is Easter Sunday today, not to date us too much, but Shaye and I decided to match. We've both got pastel blue in the spirit of Jesus, who came back and laid eggs in all of our bellies. And, one day those eggs will hatch and little Jesuses will burst from our chest, and we will ascend to heaven. I'm pretty sure that's was Ridley Scott's vision of the Revelation or something.
I'm pretty sure you forgot where he came back as a bunny and graced everyone with his horniness.
That's how he bursts from our chest.
Yeah.
Like a little. I mean, how else would he burst unless he had like the hind legs of a rabbit?
Of a rabbit or a hare. Yes, good point.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Ian,
that got weird.
Yeah, no surprise there. I remember we ended our episode on emo rap by me calling, or somewhere in there I called everyone shit-eating piggies, but now I want to redirect that insult towards ourselves as we engage in our next 2 weeks of binge eating and binge broadcasting to the world.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll hand it back off to those absolutely dashing bastards, future Shaye and future Ian.
Dashing
and
bastards.
Thank you for joining us in the bottle. It's been a pleasure.
All right, bye everyone. Kisses.
Ignorance in a bottle. Ignorance in a bottle. In a bottle.
So Shaye, me, and everyone else, we're dying to know. Did you weigh yourself?
Did I weigh myself? You know what, Ian? As a matter of fact, I went to the dollar store around the corner. I feverishly looked for 3 AAA batteries to go ahead and put in my weighing machine. I got home empty-handed because I never bought them and never weighed myself. So no, Ian, I never did that to the chagrin of myself and to any listeners.
Just want to go on the record and point out that for someone who likes to harp on my use of language, you just called a scale a weighing machine.
What's wrong with that? That's very literally accurate.
My weighing machine. I'm so, like, that sounds like someone from the past who's like, I don't know why they're British, but they have a top hat, a scarf, and a monocle, and they're like, oh, what's this? That's a scale. You step on it, it gives you your weight. Oh, you got yourself a nice weighing machine.
Fair, yeah. I guess the idea of calling it by its name was lost on me in the moment, Ian. 1 point for you. You can go ahead and put that in your back pocket. I'm sure you'll sleep better tonight.
Are you going to start calling mukbangs eating shows? Like, I don't have the energy to come up with a string of gags. One tag is enough. What are you going to call them? I'm such a bully. What are you going to call mukbangs? Feasty faces?
I'm going to let you just sit in that one. I feel like you you took the ship and you drove it off into a little iceberg there, so that's fine.
Well, anyway, back to our show on Yum Yum YouTube. Yeah, so, all right. Did you feel over this past week, like, did the concern over your weight and your health? I mean, we only did 3 mukbangs.
Only did 3.
So, do you think that was like an unwarranted concern in retrospect?
Yeah, actually I do. I mean, I definitely ate to the point of extreme discomfort the second mukbang when I was, and you know what, that was interesting because I was so close to being done with my food when I had the entire casserole dish filled with, I guess they're like Chex. It's like off-brand Chex, Cascadian Farms Chex. Or you called it Life cereal, whatever. You know?
I knew it as Life.
Yeah, whatever it is. So like I had this casserole dish filled with an entire box, and I was so close when like I was reaching like my hunger or my fullness threshold that I pushed through it anyway, just for the visual satisfaction of seeing the gross empty bowl with a little bit of milk residue at the bottom. The other 2 days though, I didn't feel I didn't feel the push to necessarily finish everything, and I think you poured yourself such massive portions that there was never a chance that you were ever going to finish anything. Is that fair?
I mean, day 1, I did really well. Like I ate most. Honestly, I could have eaten that entire pizza. I'm glad I didn't.
You got far, man. Honestly, like I haven't eaten more than 3 slices of like a large pizza in a long time.
The only reason I didn't eat the whole pizza is because you stopped, and I was like, well, if Shaye's not going to do it, I'm not going to subject myself to this pain and suffering. But I mean, I feel like that's not typically what you find in these videos. I feel like subjecting yourself to pain and suffering is part of like the mass appeal of these. And it's funny, like in Ignorance in a Bottle, we had actually mentioned, I asked you, it was like, or you kind of came up with the claim that, well, the American versions aren't true to the traditional Korean version. Like and I had called them kind of like perverted. I mean, do you still stand by that? Like, what is your stance on the Korean versus American mukbang?
Well, I think in Ignorance in a Bottle, I was misunderstood. I'm going to go on the record and say, I don't think you understood what I was saying. You called it, it's so
perverted.
funny.
I called it perverted.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, then the other version must be like the authentic, like the unperverted, like untainted version as like the Korean one. But it is really interesting. I mean, there's clearly a difference between Western American mukbang and the Korean versions. And so of the two, the most entertaining for me, and maybe this is just because I speak English and I can understand the American ones, is the American one. But I don't think it's necessarily good entertainment. It's entertainment like in the same way. It's like trash TV, like bad reality TV as entertainment. Like you're just watching people hurt themselves and have like outbursts, like especially in the case in the case of Nikocado. But the Korean ones, like, I don't know, definitely more wholesome. Like it's more akin to what you might see in like, if you watch Bon Appetit videos or like Delish videos, like these kind of like cooking culinary videos on YouTube.
Well, you actually came up with an analogy that I really liked, and I think is incredibly fitting. Is like you said that mukbang feels like the American mukbang feels like a game show. Like we've gamified it. It's like, everyone's always upping the ante. Like, oh, this person made a video where they ate 10 Arby's sandwiches. Well, today I'm going to eat 20 Arby's sandwiches.
Right.
And it has this very like WrestleMania feel to it that is, I think, very absent from the Korean ones. And I do just want to say too, in Ignorance in a Bottle, you said something really funny. You were like, oh, I don't want to watch mukbangs with subtitles. I worry that would like subtract from the authenticity of the experience. And I don't know why I had this shot of you in my head watching a Korean mukbang, and the Korean mukbanger is like, and you go, what did she say? What does that mean? And then
What does that even mean?
you see the subtitle, you're like, oh, okay, all right. You.
That's funny. You know what it was also is I was like, fuck, I'm not going to watch Korean ones with subtitles. And I'm pretty sure the first ones I watched was like some Korean ones with subtitles. And I really, honestly, like those ones were a lot more fascinating. Especially there was one where I watched this with my girlfriend, and my girlfriend's like, oh, I didn't know they had 7-Elevens in Seoul. But I guess like 7-Eleven's like an international convenience store. And this woman goes in and basically just like goes in, buys a ton of the stuff in the store, sits down, uses the 7-Eleven microwave to heat it all up, and then just like live streams herself in the 7-Eleven. Not
in
live
the 7-Eleven.
But just films herself eating it. And then she's like, time for dessert. And then just goes up and like grabs some more stuff from the shelves. It's like, that one was like pretty interesting. It was like definitely like entertaining to watch from like that perspective. But it also wasn't, it was gluttonous for sure. Like absolutely like eating too much, but not even close to the level of gluttony or like weird, like shock showmanship that you see in the American versions.
Yeah, it's funny. And what's funny too is even in Ignorance in a Bottle, I had mentioned, I was like, oh, when I say perverted, I don't mean sexually. I actually take that back. I was wrong. They have made them extremely sexual, which we'll touch on more momentarily. But no, I mean, just to kind of touch on what you were saying too, I really fucking miss Korean convenience stores. Like there's so much there. I mean, they're just cleaner, they're quieter, like they're calmer. Like when you walk into like a 7-Eleven bathroom, it's like a 50-50 chance that you're going to walk into the set of a Saw movie. It's just going to be covered in like shit and blood. But I mean, like, no, like it's so nice in Korea. Like they've got the microwaves there. Like you buy something, there's little counters for you to eat. You can sit on like a busy street and just like watch everybody go by and take like 10 or 15 minutes for yourself. So like it's a really nice experience. And like you describing that did make me kind of like nostalgic for just, I don't know, like after work, you and your friends like literally just go to the convenience store. They've got tables outside. You buy some beers and you sit out and you just like drink and kind of let the world go by. And I don't know. I definitely miss that. And talking about the difference between a Korean mukbang and American mukbang, between this like really quaint, nice experience versus like this monster truck rally version of an eating program is like really bringing me down.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, we've been struggling. There's no secret to that. We've been struggling to understand what mukbang is, like where the limits of these kind of things are, and seeing like this very Korean version, like honestly gives me like you hate when people say way more questions than answers. But I made a captain's log just like talking about whether or not our first mukbang counted as a mukbang at all, among some other things. So I'll just go ahead and let you all hear, and if you're watching on YouTube, see it now.
Yeah.
Heyo, Ian. It's your boy Shaye here. Just reflecting on our first mukbang that we just did. That was a weird one. It was a pretty weird one. And I'm not sure if we did it right, but I'm also not sure who would want to watch that or like what the point of what we did was. So I'm not really sure what the point of mukbang is generally. I've seen like some people seem to just be into watching other people eat without like a lot of talking involved, and that was like certainly not what we did. So I'm curious to see if going forward, if when they jump in, they seek to entertain in the same way, or if they do more of just quietly eating, because I've seen some where it's just they cover the top of their face and it's just their mouth and they're just slurping noodles, and they give you like this very intense ASMR immersive experience into mukbang, and that's frankly like somehow very repulsive to me. I don't think I didn't even understand that I had such intense misophonia for slurping noodles and stuff like that. So maybe that's what some people are getting out of this. I'm not really sure. I think it's pretty clear after doing what we just did that I still don't understand the medium yet. So I think tomorrow it's our off day. I'm going to go ahead and just watch as much as I can of some mukbang stuff and hopefully not get too grossed out and learn some stuff. All right, Shaye out.
Okay, so I guess point blank, do you now think that what we did was a mukbang?
No, yes. but I
got both answers in there. You know, you can't be wrong if you say yes and no at the same time.
Maybe. But no, I do think it was, but I think it was a very unique to us kind of mukbang, and almost maybe more unique to you, because I feel like that first one, you really led the charge, came in with like a ton of showmanship energy. And what's interesting is I feel like what you described in Truman Show camp about like the cameras on, like have to entertain. Like I felt that coming from you. You were just like, okay, what do we do? Like we got to keep like there's people watching us. Like let's like just like trying to keep like the show moving and like stay high energy. And I didn't see that a lot. Well, okay, I saw some high energy stuff in like some of the other mukbang, but not necessarily like in the exact same way. Like I think the mukbanginess that we brought was like it's a much different form of it, but like true to form, we ate a lot of food, like we presented it to people. Like I think if we did a little bit more like dabbing our food in the sauce and then like showing it to the camera before we eat it, like that would have been more mukbangy.
Yeah.
Or like maybe a couple just like small little burps into the microphone, like might have caught us like in there a little bit more. But no, that's kind of where I'm thinking about it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, like you just kind of mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that belongs in the mukbang canon that like we didn't include. So, I mean, like the last one we did felt more mukbang because I think we talked a little bit more about what we were cooking.
Right.
We definitely did some camera showing things. That I think we were getting closer toward the end. I agree that I don't think the first one was a mukbang.
Well, that's not what I said. I said no, yes, and then I said maybe.
Okay. So my stance is the first one was very off base. I would say it was like, and it was just a game show with mukbang incorporated elements.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. Like based on what I saw about all the mukbangs and just in terms of like distinction, like I think we were both kind of at different places mentally. Like I was definitely thinking about contemporary mukbang where every mukbang has a gimmick. Like early mukbang was very much about like you stream your meal, you interact with people as they come on to watch you, and it almost feels quaint now in comparison. And it's so funny because I'm sure in 2011, 2012, when this was first starting, it felt very bizarre. But I think if anybody kind of anticipated where it was going, and maybe they did, by 2021, where it's people eating like 100 fucking hamburgers, I think they would have just vomited in the street, like, no, this can't be the future. So, yeah, that's kind of where my head was at. And no, you're right. I did feel really uncomfortable. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. Like, I like the show because we kind of get to like mull over ideas and make jokes.
Right.
But that sitting in front of a pizza and being like, ooh, I'm gonna eat the pizza. Like, that's something that feels clownish, and I hate it.
Yeah. I do like, so obviously we evolved in our three fucking, it's funny to even call that an evolution, but we, I think, learned a little bit each time. And when we get to the one we did last night, I agree with you. I think that was like way more, I don't think it was totally a mukbang. Like it was still very much like a camp re-education kind of
style.
Yeah. And so like the way we did it last time, I think was better, but also like we were eating noodles with, mostly with chopsticks, and that like, that felt more, at least traditionally mukbang. Like, I don't think people would look at that and say like, okay, that's absolutely not a mukbang. You guys were completely off base, which they might have done on the first one. The one thing I think we didn't really include as much, and I think I'm glad about this, is like the ASMR vibe, like really getting in with those like mouth noises and stuff.
You wanted to. I was like, dude, count me out.
You know what? Because I would hate it, but I think that's what some of the people like the consumers of mukbang. I think that's what I think that's what some of those people, it's definitely what some of those people want. And I don't know, I've never been able to understand ASMR, and I didn't realize that was kind of the camp we were stepping into. How do you feel about that? About ASMR generally?
The ASMR, I mean, I guess some people have like a visceral physical reaction to it. So if I was one of the people that like whose skin stood on end and like I felt like my whole body was having 1,000 micro orgasms, like I feel like these people report, maybe I'd be into it. But I mean, for me, it's like my first impulse is like revulsion. But I do wonder how much of that is cultural, social conditioning, because we talked about that previously. Is like table etiquette is different all over the world. So right. In some countries, like slurping is a compliment to the chef. Like I know here it's considered very crass, rude, and revulsive. So I was kind of wondering like how much of this has been conditioned, how much of this is like a genuine like physical response to this like sensation or this sound.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it's funny because I'm like reminded immediately of being in high school, and my girlfriend at the time, her younger sister hated any mouth noise, like anything at all, like even like chewing with your mouth closed. If she could hear anything, that was like something that would drive her crazy. And I remember thinking like, all right, get over yourself, to like some extent. But I guess like misophonia is like the term for that. I didn't know that for a long time. But then it's interesting to see it now and see like this very extreme, like I'm curious like how she would react to ASMR. I've never done it right where like I put the headphones on and like actually hear like the stereo version of it, because that's like what you're supposed to do, I guess. Like people, like I don't know if you know this, like people have earbuds that have microphones in them, so it's supposed to replicate exactly how they're hearing things, like even down to like the shape, the sound that the sound you get from sound waves bouncing off your ear into those microphones, the same way they would hit your eardrum. Like that's supposed to be kind of like the idea, at least on some level. So I've never done that. I don't think I really want to. Like that seems like some very personal, primal, I don't know, off-putting thing.
Do you ever get the feeling that we're just drowning in like completely indulgent pleasures? Like that's I don't know. Sometimes when I like that's kind of my gut instinct or gut reaction to, like when you ask me that question about ASMR, just like why? Like I understand, looking at a painting and it's full of hidden meanings and it's designed to, you're supposed to kind of see yourself through the painting and like think about perspective and culture at large. Like, I get that, but I don't know. Like I'm having trouble. I can't justify ASMR. I'm sure the people who love it would just say, shut the fuck up. No one cares what you have to say. And I would say like, you like ASMR, dude, you shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, so you're asking, do you think we, the collective new humanity, have too many ways?
Collective new humanity.
Do we have too many ways to enjoy things? Is that kind of the question?
Not even enjoy. I feel like enjoyment is like too generous of a term. I don't feel like it's enjoyment. I feel like it's indulgent.
Okay, so too many ways to indulge. So So,
And
all right,
because mukbang feels kind of akin to this. Like mukbang feels like an indulgence, right?
Sure.
Like it doesn't seem to serve any social function outside of, like that's it. Yeah, and full stop.
it is funny because it's like, I don't know. I mean, the analogy to porn came up like a lot, like when we were like watching these videos, like like this Vice documentary that like I think like incorrectly says it's a portmanteau of food and porn, like especially because you said in like Ignorance in a Bottle, it's like
Yeah, they do get the portmanteau incorrect.
yeah, which is weird, but it's
Which
not,
roughly translates to food porn.
like,
Not even close.
What's interesting though is like it is food porn, like in very like directly. Like if you think about like pornography today, like you can find pornography for a long time, but you can find like the most extreme like sexual pleasures you might ever have visually represented. And now you have the exact same thing with food, where you can just take this interest in food to its extreme. Which
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that like, I guess like extreme pornography is probably not good for human psychology in large doses. And I guess that's probably also true for consuming food pornography in large doses. But like, I really don't know. I guess it's like the question of like indulgence. Like, is it terrible that it exists at all? Maybe not. Like it's fascinating. I don't really imagine this having having legs for a very long time. Like I do think that this is like a fad, like an internet fad, like in the same way planking was like really popular or something like that, a decade ago.
Well, Nakavo Arakato is not going to like to hear that. But I think, we definitely have more captain's logs to cover, which I think cover some of these topics and will kind of give us more ground to explore. So why don't we pop that on and then we can kind of see where we can go from there.
All right, Shay, listen up. I just got back from what pretty much amounts to a 2-mile walk to stop the shaking from the sugar high I was feeling after eating a pound of fucking Apple Jacks. And I gotta tell you, man, I feel like absolute shit. I still feel like absolute shit. I can't believe that mukbangers are fucking doing this to themselves. It's like, I don't know, man. At this point, I don't know what's worse. Like, just get a fucking faceless job at a bank. Get a thankless job as a bank teller at this point. Like, just die in a cubicle. Like, I don't know what's worse. Is it worth $1 million fucking dollars a year? I don't fucking know.
Well, frankly, Ian, I'd rather have a bankless job as a thank teller. I forgot how you said that, but I really enjoy that.
Is that what did I mispronounce? Did I do that switcheroo in the video?
Yeah, you did a spoonerism, as it's called.
The Seal spoonerism.
It's a spoonerism. Yeah, you did a spoonerism there. But I love it. It was a perfect spoonerism, the best one I've ever heard, probably. But yeah, man, I'm glad you touched on this because the physical reaction to eating this food was pretty intense. Like I mentioned, that second day was really intense for me, or the second mukbang. Because like I think I mentioned this in one of my captain's logs, but I don't think we're going to use it today. But there was a moment where I just go into my girlfriend's room. We're done with the mukbang, and I just go in to the room and just start throwing a little tantrum and start pouting. And then my girlfriend's like, "Oh, baby, what's wrong?" I'm like, "No, I'm not talking right now." And she's like, "Can I get anything?" And I was like, "I want water." And I just like really just like the most childish version of myself I've ever seen. And she's like, "Oh, your tummy's too full." And I was like, "Ah," just like, I don't know, but like very like clearly took a psychological toll on me, very, very obviously.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Hearing you say that, and then hearing me say that back, and then like just kind of sifting through like everything we watched. This reminds me of like the Vox documentary we watched, which was covering mukbang in 2015. And like one of the Korean mukbangers said something I thought that was like very telling. And then like, it almost seems ominous now. I'm like, God, like you just you had no idea what was in store for you. And he's like, especially given like the recent revelations about like, Nika Avocado and like all of his like fucking meltdowns and temper tantrums and like, just like, like, the like documentation of his like I don't even know if you would call it tragic weight gain. Anyway, and he kind of feels like the punching bag of mukbang, and like it just feels like so much of a low hanging fruit. I don't want to harp on it, because anyway, moving on. But like the guy in the documentary said that like work environments are stressful no matter what. But like as a mukbanger, like here doing this, I have like total freedom and total creative control. And it's just like within a few years, it would grow like more and more intense and like more and more competitive and more extreme. And like, I wonder if he would still say that. I wonder if he would say like, oh yeah, there's still all this freedom and like all this control. Because I think now it's just like mukbang has essentially been reduced to like one-upsmanship. And like the mukbangers themselves report like fucking just like, it's very common for a mukbanger now to have a video talking about the sheer toll that the food takes on their body. Almost like they're begging their audience to continue to support, like, please support me so I can find some other way to entertain you. And they're just like, no, keep eating.
Well, it's interesting because now it really does seem like this has become more about vlogging than it has anything to do with food at all. But like, in the sense that like they're entertaining, like they're trying to like be entertaining while they're just being personalities. But it's with this backdrop of extreme food challenges, just like that's where your fame lies. So like, I don't know if their fan base would even follow them if they like abandon mukbang. You know, it's like, yeah, I like you as a person. I watch you because like I connect with you or whatever. But I think if they left food, the personality would still be gone for some reason. Like there's a weird connection between the personality and the act of overeating, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Like, I mean, how many of these mukbangers have you seen made a successful transition to a life outside of mukbang? Like, I don't know I haven't done the research into this at all or any research into this, but like, I don't know of anyone. Do you?
No. And it's funny because like that mukbanger, the one that I referenced from the Vox documentary, like he was originally cooking and serving and eating normal amounts of food. He was preparing things on camera and being like, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm seasoning. My dream is to open a restaurant. And I feel like nobody would watch those videos anymore. They're like, why would I watch this guy make a meal for one when I could watch this other guy? Like Matt Stoney is the last video I watched before recording this episode. And literally in the episode, he goes, all right, everyone's doing this, so I have to step it up a notch. And he ate 15 packages of like the Korean fire noodles, like buldak bak bokumba. I can't remember the name of it. I just know it's like buldak for like fire chicken. And it's weird. I don't know, man. It's weird. Not to make it like political, but I almost feel like the mukbang ecosystem is like a perfect microcosm of like how capitalism cannibalizes itself. It's like watching the last 70 years of economics like condensed into 7 years. Because again, it started so normal and quaint, and like now it's just fucking like sheer excess and just like it's disgusting. And I don't know. It's like weird. Like even in terms of like the commercialization of the food being eaten, like why would this fucking noodle company make a product that's like not even pleasant to eat? Like the whole purpose of the food is that it hurts. It's like, this is barely edible. Hey!
Well, that's like the whole concept of like hot ones, right? Like, I mean, we talk about this in Ignorance in a Bottle. Like, is it that different? Like you're just having someone eat something that's in like objectively very unpleasant. It's a challenge, you know. Then that's the whole idea. Is it's like I don't know. It's like running a marathon. Like that's not necessarily pleasant. I mean, most people wouldn't describe that as pleasant. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy because you do get like a sense of flow and like it's you know can be good for you to run. But where like this is some kind of it's like an endurance challenge of just like how much you can poison yourself without you know, I don't know, fainting on camera or like shitting your pants on camera.
It's so divorced from like the first years of mukbang. I mean, like a lot of it, I don't know if I mean, food is supposed to be like a pleasant experience, but a lot of this feels joyless. Like, I mean, even to the extent that like when they're eating the food with like the rubber gloves, I'm like, this seems surgical. Like you've completely divorced the experience of eating. And like, now it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. Like it's you know what it reminds me of? Did you ever see this? It reminds me of like the Pain Olympics that was on like the early days of,
just thinking about that.
Did you see the one where the guy cuts his wiener off?
I did. You actually, okay, so that's, yeah. Yes, I saw that one. In fact, but yeah, no, the guy like jacks off with a knife basically and then like hatchets
we
off
don't
his
have,
balls.
no, beep that. We're beeping that. I don't want to know. Oh, fuck. Yeah, thanks a lot. By the way, thanks a lot to my high school girlfriend's cousin for making me watch that. I'm not scarred at all. I appreciate you.
Well,
So-
you know, to touch on those though, like even though that is like its own vibe, there's still like on YouTube very similar things about like people like I'm getting stung by the world's most painful wasp today, and they like pull a wasp out of a jar, and they're like, "Here we go, everyone."
That's
Ow!
Coyote Peterson.
Oh, it hurts so bad, and they're like, "Cool, man." And I mean, the people watching that, it's like it's almost. It is a very like you can see the parallels there. They're undeniable, but it's just one is just involved in like a very specific, like effectively like a fetish. Like maybe it's not necessarily sexual to the person, but it's still like a fetish. Something about it is fetishistic.
Yeah. No, I make a joke too with friends that like the same people that like Coyote Peterson, watching him get bit by snapping turtles and stung by wasps are the same people that like think sex work isn't work. It's like, okay, like really, this guy getting bit by frogs, like this is a job? Fuck you. But it's funny, like that we mentioned just like this pain aspect of it and like this like suffering aspect of it as well, because I mean, like, I don't know, I think it's indicative, like, I can't help but kind of think about this like culturally in terms of like, how did we get here? And like, part of me thinks that like poverty in America has become so fucking horrifying. People will subject themselves to just like, you know, basically torture to be able to like avoid it. I mean, like the things that people are subjecting themselves to in these videos, and it's just like, why do this? Like, it's either like a sickness to want like celebrity so badly, you'll almost become, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, infamous. You know, infamy is better than anonymity, which is a dark thought, I feel like.
It's interesting because it's a very specific brand of mukbang that does this. Like it's not all of it though, and it's like it seems like it's maybe where it's headed more and more, which is interesting. But I also think that those are like the violent final throes of a dying genre. Perhaps, you know, it's like desperately clamoring for any sort of relevance or attention in like something that's just not as popular as it once was. You know, and I think maybe this is just the It's the extreme final throes is what I think it is. But you know what's interesting is the genre itself seems so hard to pin down and define. Like we're really struggling with that. So like you have this captain's log where you talk about this one type of program. I don't even know what to call it, and they have episodes that I guess they call mukbangs, and I'm not sure if that meets the criteria or not. But let's go ahead and hear what you have to say about Ratata?
I've been calling them Rattata, like the Pokemon, but yeah, let's go ahead and dive into that.
All right.
Hey Shay, what's up? It's day 2. It's me, it's Ian, it's day 2. And I just got done watching a bunch of different types of videos. And I mean, there's something, I don't know, like one explanation I keep hearing about all of these mukbang videos is that like, you know, it's there to kind of curb loneliness. So it's peaked in quarantine because everybody's feeling isolated and like it's nice to eat, feel like you're eating with company. I think that's bullshit. If you want to eat with company, call your family, put them on Zoom and eat with them live, all right? You don't need to watch somebody eat 100 fucking Whoppers to curb your loneliness. But what I really kind of realized today is I found this video by these people called like Rattata, I think it's pronounced. And then a lot of these like slurping, crunching, moaning ASMR eating videos. And I mean, like, I'm coming to the conclusion that there's something like extremely pornographic and like animalistic about these mukbangs. And it's funny because like, to me, I feel like there's this kind of, I don't know, like maybe it's scratching this like animalistic itch in like the same way porn does, where, and there's, I don't know, there's definitely something there with like this crossover of like this almost pornographic mode of eating in terms of like the sheer viscerality of it. That's a word. Or just like the visceralness of it. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely want to talk about this more. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Ian and his drip out.
For those who can't see, Ian was wearing a very nice little pink sweater.
Pink shirt. Nice pink shirt.
And then he had like I guess he told me.
Blue jacket, yeah.
Yeah, from his dad. So nice to see that.
Dude, it was like I just stepped out of a pool, man. That's how much drip I had just rolling off me. So
you were sopping wet, man. It's some wet ass pussy energy
So-
you got going there.
yeah. All right. Anyway, so all right. Before we get into this, I wanted to ask you previously, but didn't get the chance, and I don't want to lose the opportunity. We've been talking about like all of these aspects of mukbang that appear to be making their way into like other programs, begging the question, like, are these programs just kind of like their own genre of mukbang? Do you think comedians in cars getting coffee and hot ones, point blank, are those mukbangs?
No.
I kind of think they are a little bit. I think comedians in cars getting coffee is like a coffee mukbang. Like just watching Jerry Seinfeld, get his coffee and be like, no, I don't care who you are. That's a good cup of Joe. Say, who's Joe? Why was he making such good coffee?
Amazing, Ian. Truly amazing.
I'm surprised that wasn't more amusing to you.
I don't know. I don't know. Why is like Jerry Seinfeld like makes an appearance in every one of our fucking episodes?
He is the ultimate. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I like see what you're saying, that there's like definitely some aspects of it, but I mean, I would think, both of these shows are inherently like the hot ones and comedians in cars getting coffee. Both of those are like interviews primarily, I would say. And it's like, if it were hot ones is like very much just about chicken wings and the spicy sauces that go on them. And the coffee in comedians it's always Lavazza coffee, like, because I guess they got like some kind of like branded deal for them.
Well, I mean, it's like at least the pictures are of Lavazza coffee. I'm sure they didn't bring a bag to the diner, and they're like, "Yeah, you have to serve this." Like, no, like he has to drink from these cups that have our name on them.
Yes, exactly. Which is like also like, I don't know, its own weird thing. But I don't know. There seems like there's a long history of like those kind of like interview shows. I assume that's true. I have nothing coming to mind right now when I try and scrape the bottom of the barrel for examples. But I don't know. It does feel different. I can see that like I think it's limited just to the fact that there's food involvement and personalities present. But other than that, I think like of mukbang as like a very different thing, and especially its origins, I think of like communal eating, like virtual communal eating, I think is not present in the comparison to hot ones and comedians in cars.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm inclined to think that they are. And like, I wonder if they were kind of inspired by them, whether, consciously or not. But it's weird, like, because I think mukbang is kind of like, you're saying it's coming towards an end. I just think it's kind of like a self-conscious medium that's like already eking into its avant-garde phase. And it's like trying to kind of prove that it's, it's not that old for an entertainment genre, but I think it's trying to prove that it's more than just eating, which is why they're trying to incorporate all these other elements. Because I think just saying, like people kind of catching on and being like, oh, I get it. He's eating a lot of food. I'm bored. And they're kind of be like, no, wait, we can do more. And like, I think that's where like the Rattata thing comes in, right? Where it's like, okay, like it's a mukbang, but like vaudevillian. It's mukbang with magic tricks and sex appeal. And it just like, it kind of covers all of these different bases. That I guess it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like a lifeline. Like it's trying to keep it alive for some reason. And it is extremely popular.
Well, I think Rattata, or however you fucking say it, I'm so annoyed with this. I honestly do not think that comes from mukbang primarily. I think whatever Rattata is, and to anyone who hasn't seen it, it's fucking bizarre. It's most often like three women in primary colors. I can't tell if it's a children's show or not, but like the way that they act, it feels very like hypersexualizing, like this infantile, like kind of feminine energy. And it's like, it's very strange, and like licking on lollipop and eating lots of candy and like going like oopsies. And they actually, one of the most like upsetting thing about this is none of the women actually ever speak. You never hear any of their voices. It's a woman who voices over everything, but none of the characters you're actually seeing have a voice.
They're completely like bimbified or Barbified or something.
It's so upsetting. But like the mukbangs, air quotes, that they do in there, like it's just like they're like, oh, we're doing a food thing now, but like they have the same thing with like other things where it's like, oh, I'm pregnant now, and like it's like going through and like, what kind of daughter am I gonna have, and it's just like opening like these like make believe doors to see like, oh, is that my daughter? Like it has nothing to do with food at all. That's why I think they're just like hopping on like a food vibe, but it's not necessarily a mukbang. If anything, I think this is trying to capitalize on the popularity of mukbang to siphon some viewers from this very viral internet-based phenomenon to whatever the fuck they're doing.
I wonder how much of like mukbang is just kind of like infiltrate and I don't want to say but I wonder if mukbang is kind of poisoning the well in a way. It's funny, but no, like I'm glad you brought that up about like Rattata, because like I wrote some of the notes that I wrote were basically like it felt like it was very heavily influenced and like it was pandering to like the nostalgia of 2000s Disney Channel and like Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
on the very hypersexualized, like you mentioned, like transposing, but like also like weird, like transposing the cartoon into the real and like the realization of like this very male fantasy. And like, yeah, they don't talk, this very male gazy. And like, it almost kind of is the perfect metaphor for mukbang, because mukbang in and of itself feels like cartoonish, right? Like, I'm reminded of like Popeye, where the hamburger guy eats like 100 hamburgers and everyone's like, that can never happen. And now like literally we have real people sitting in front of a camera, like eating these hamburgers, only there's like this horror element where I don't know, like a scene out of like Freddy Krueger or the Leprechaun, where somebody wishes for 100 hamburgers and then like a monkey's paw thing, like the catch is you have to eat them all and then they fucking die. And like a lot of these people are fucking like dying on camera. It's so fucked. Yeah, it's fucked.
It's interesting. Like, this is very much like I don't even know how to describe it. This is like a thing that happens when we talk about this. We're like, this is so wrong. Like everything's wrong here, and like we see like so many issues with it. I do think it's weird, but I don't see this as like Twilight Zone like horror aspect. Like I think it's weird, but I don't see it as like like the end game of like culture or something, which I think
I'm not
like,
saying it is.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying that to me.
No, I'm just saying like I think that like it's kind of like you'd mentioned as well. Like it's just people are kind of like trying to like ride on this train, and I do think that they're it's a flash in the pan. I kind of agree with that, but I do think that we'll see elements of this incorporated like moving forward. I mean, I think comedians in cars and hot ones are like the perfect example of that. So.
Well, dude, going back to Rattata, I'm looking at like some of the comments on here, and like it is insane, like what this channel is. Like this video, not gonna say the name, came out. It's not about food necessarily. Actually, no, it is. It has 5 million views. Came out a week ago, and all of the comments are like, I mean, just a lot of weird things, like the number 9, two emoticons, the channel's name Rattata, with an emoji, then 3 more emojis, then poor Julie. The letters GDJGDR, the letter U, like just fucking strange. WEKLU0U, like it's who is watching this? Like who are these people? And like nothing cogent, nothing coherent. Like it's very strange. So which makes me just think it's guys watching like basically like infantilized
women, yeah.
Yes, infantilized women who like can only type with their left hand because they're busy.
Well, okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned this as well, because like even in the captain's log, like I talk about this, like it feels like there's such this like direct similarity, like I hadn't even thought about before, between the way that the style of food consumption in general, and like sex. Like there's this primal carnal element to like mukbang, which has, I think, in like, and like the way that we eat food, which has like been repressed through a strict oppressive like social code. So just like we have these puritanical ideas about sex, we also have these very puritanical ideas about eating, which we control through etiquette. So it's like, compare what and how these people are eating in these videos versus like common table manners. And I mean, like, I think there's like a lot of crossover, like moaning. Being mindful of like where you put your fucking elbows, like not eating with your hands, not talking with your mouth full, not eating too much. And it just like, I feel like these attitudes towards sex are we have the same kind of approach towards the way that we eat. And I wonder if that's, more than like the loneliness thing, because I don't totally buy that excuse. Like, oh, we're lonely, that's why we like mukbang. I think it's kind of tapping into like a lizard brain kind of thing, where it's just like, yes, this is how we used to eat food. We used to feast.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like a rejection of like an imposed cultural, like, I don't know, an imposed cultural norm that we're told this is how you eat, and this is how one should eat. This is how one should make love, and it's like a very similar thing. It's like it's a rejection. It's a loud rejection of these ideas visually, like something you can like. You're like rejecting the norms without actually having to do anything by just consuming someone else rejecting the
or
norm.
just the sheer joy of watching someone else reject them. I mean, like, yeah, like missionary position is like the same energy as not putting your elbows on the table.
Exactly.
And it's funny too, because like I know we have a lot to cover, so like we'll move on after this. But I'm reminded of I watched this TED Talk when we were doing reality TV camp, and like asking this question of like, well, like can reality TV be art? What is art? And they did this like social experiment when they were trying to figure out like what do all cultures consider beautiful? And I think the photo that got like the most amount of like nods yes, or like that people most all over the world agreed was beautiful, was this picture of like this tree next to a lake. And they said that, well, we think that the reason for this is like evolutionary. Like the lake implied food, a water source. Like the tree implied like fruit, shelter, the potential to carve branches into weapons and bows and protection and things like that. So I wonder if it's kind of like the same thing, like this like weird innate draw to this like, primal mode of consumption. But that being aside, I know Rattata was like its own really weird genre, but you kind of asked yourself, you're like, it feels like there's a lot of these kind of genres. So I mean, like with the mukbang, I don't know, mode so full, like what even counts as mukbang anymore?
What is up, Ian? It's late, I'm drunk, and I've recorded this too many times and failed every single time, so this is going to be the winner. So I am recording the episode with you tomorrow, and it's been a week. We've done our 3 mukbangs, and I still have no idea what mukbang even is. So I do have 5 ideas of 5 potentially different versions of mukbang, and my question to you is, can it be all 5 of these at the same time? Is it all 5 of these at the same time, or is it something else? So I'm gonna go through them with you one by one. The first one, I think, is this idea of ASMR, just people wanting to hear mouth noises, burps, slurps, clicks, clacks, all of those things, and just having this, whatever, the meridian response or whatever it's supposed to be to these different sounds. Or if it's maybe this second idea of maybe just a more straightforward sexual reaction to watching people eat and hearing people eat, and maybe people are just getting off, masturbating at home or whatever to like these videos. The third one seems to be uniquely American and seems to be related to maybe like sadism and Schadenfreude, and it's the idea of eating challenges and watching people hurt themselves or like do incredibly unhealthy food-related feats regarding or involving huge amounts of calories and food. And then the fourth one, and this is getting increasingly palatable options for me. The fourth one is uniquely Eastern, it seems to be. And it's more culinary in nature. It's people cooking the actual food themselves, talking about exactly what they're cooking, how they're cooking it, and as they eat it, describing flavor profiles and how they might make it better. And that seems a little bit more my speed. And then finally, we have this fifth one, which seems to be more related to loneliness and people not wanting to eat alone and just looking for connection and companionship virtually through other people eating, which seems to be a little bit easier for me to stomach. So I'm just curious, what do you think, Ian? Do you think, is it all 5 of these? Is it none of them? What is it? Help me out.
So, Ian, actually, I have a better question for you. Like, obviously, we've touched on all of these different things, and it seems like with mukbang meaning so many different things to so many different people, like kind of like how I mentioned before, like, is this like the final throes? Like, you seem to not think that mukbang is dead, but like, I think like this like divergence of where mukbang came from to where it is now, or like the different places it is now, is a signifier that this is the end times for mukbang. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like I said, when I talked about like poisoning the well, I think that like the mukbang will make an appearance. You know what I'm picturing? I'm picturing like a shtick on the Conan show or something like that, like Jimmy Fallon like bringing, I don't know, Rebel Alley over to like a table full of pies, and he's gonna be like, "We're gonna have a pie eating contest, Rebel," and she's gonna be like, "Oh, Jimmy." So it's like I think stuff like that. But again, like maybe that predates mukbang. But
I think that
like
kind of stuff does, yeah.
yeah. So it's like I think that when I mentioned earlier about mukbang being like a self-conscious genre, I think mukbang and mukbangers have become aware of the limitations of, I mean, not only of what mukbang can be, but what they can handle as human beings. You know, and like, I don't know. I think what happens in the next year or two might be really telling whether or not like people continue to want to watch these mukbangers push themselves to like the physical and psychological and emotional brink, or if they'll be like, I can't watch this person self-destruct anymore. Like I have to turn this off. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. So it is really interesting to see this genre and medium like evolve in the way it has, and I'm really curious to see like is this if it's like a zombie genre in the sense that like it'll live on in a new form, you know, like Christ reborn 3 days later or whatever. So but I do know we can talk about that after our sponsor lines our pockets. So without any further ado, advertiser, take it away.
Part of being a good teacher is connecting with your students. That's why I take mine to Olive Garden.
Where's everyone else, Miss Pearson?
It's a chance to connect. So, Josh, have you ever been with an older woman?
Wait, what?
Enjoy Olive Garden's new chicken crostata, grilled chicken breast with our tomato Alfredo sauce, or new steak crostata, grilled chicken medallions. Okay, I'm sorry. Did she say she was his teacher? Is there like a number we call for this?
Let's turn your F into a big D.
But boy, how about this pasta?
You're so strong.
Olive Garden. He'll be fine.
All right, sponsor, thank you for that. And remember to please write to your local senator to tell them to stop putting bans on that product, okay? We've got too much ozone as it is. We could stand to lose a little bit, all right? So we covered a lot in this episode. I know that I feel like I feel more informed on mukbang. I don't know if the audience feels more informed on mukbang. They may have been more confused. They may be more confused than when they entered this episode. Like, what the fuck just happened? So I guess like before we go, do you have any final thoughts on mukbang?
I'm really excited to see what the experts have to say about it because, like, honestly, like, I'm not totally sure what to make of this first week. Like, I feel like I've been pulled in so many directions. Like, I really need someone to come in, kind of hold my hand and say, this is something that you need to consider. Or maybe like, yeah, like, this is like kind of the state of mukbang as it is now. It is being pulled apart in every direction. Like, or maybe, you know, maybe they'll even say something different. Like maybe this is a genre that's blooming and we have so many different avenues that we can take mukbang. And so it's a very exciting time. I'm not really sure what the answer is. So, I mean, frankly, I'm just excited to see where the experts will lead us next week. And because frankly, I think I need the guidance. How about you? What are you feeling at the end of week 1 now?
You know, I want to talk to a mukbang fan. Like I'll be honest, mukbangers, I'll say this, the tone policing and virtue signaling about mukbang feels more alarming to me than mukbang itself. Like it almost feel like, because it's almost just like they want like overconsumption to have a mascot so that if they can like get them removed from YouTube, they'll be like, we did it. We solved the problem of overeating. Or like overconsumption or food waste. So I just feel like it's like it's kind of a vanity project to be like, I'm a moral person. I would never do mukbang. So let's talk about, you know, Nico Avocado and like, you know, Joe Sandwich and Hungry Fat Girl and why they're the problem with society today. Like, no, like they're a symptom of like larger systemic issues. So It's like I'm more annoyed by mukbang tone policing than I am by actual mukbang. But I also am so curious about who's watching this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know a single person that enjoys mukbang that doesn't hear the slurping and go, oh, fuck.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, even you just like reminding me of it, like gives me such a visceral, like cringy, like uncomfortable skin curling reaction. But yeah, I don't know anyone who watches it either.
Yeah, it's weird, man. And like, I'm curious about the fans. I wonder if it's like a genuine enjoyment of what's going on, or if this is kind of this like dark psychology thing, right? Where it's like this kind of joy in watching, especially like someone like, you know, like Nikado. What is his name? Nikavo Avocado?
It's Nikado Avocado.
Nikado Avocado. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I feel like he's like mukbang's like whipping boy.
He's like, you know what he reminds me of? I forgot the guy's name, but like one of the earliest YouTube memes, the guy crying under the sheet saying like, stop being mean.
Brittany alone.
Leave Brittany alone, which is crazy how that's like been a full circle. Like, you know, like the prescient, the prescience of that message was like lost for over a decade. You know, it's crazy now. We're like, oh wait, we were horribly bullying this woman for years. You know, it's crazy. But anyway, the way that like that person, I think his name was Chris something. The way Chris had been
the foresight.
Yeah, he had been like crying, and like that was like his whole thing was just like an emotional outburst. I think like Nikado Avocado does, like he took a page out of his playbook and was just like, oh, if I just have fucking tantrums, I'm going to get people watching me.
I don't know if you'd agree with this. I feel like I mean he is fascinating. I mean, talk about like the shining star in like the American mukbang universe, or at least like the black hole through which all attention is sucked in.
That's interesting.
But like I know that more than watching people like succeed, I feel like there's this I don't know, like this dark, intense enjoyment, like the Schadenfreude of like we love to watch people fall from grace. And I feel like, I don't know, like mukbang is this really interesting experiment where the fall is the success. Like the more he kind of destroys his mind and body, the more famous he becomes. So it's just like, like I get the sense like you're almost watching failure in reverse when you like watch his channel, and it's like, God, this is so fucking bizarre.
Well, it's weird. He's not the first person to do this. Like, I'm just reminded of like Charlie Sheen's famous episode. I know Charlie Sheen was famous beforehand.
Well, but again, like he was famous normally, and then he fell from grace. I feel like Nikado Avocado was like, falling up.
Yeah, I would definitely say like we talked more about Charlie Sheen when he was losing his fucking mind than before. You know, and like I mean, he was like the topic of conversation for months during that period, and same for like Kanye West, again, famous already, but like the same kind of idea, like these people, like it's the spectacle, like they're creating a spectacle, and like that's why we're paying attention. So I think, I mean, again,
but I feel like their stock was falling as they were falling, like as they were losing their minds, as they were like getting in all this trouble, like their social stock was crumbling or on shaky ground. I know Kanye redeemed himself.
I was gonna say,
I feel like Avocado's fame only grew as he grew more erratic, and it's like YouTube is this very special medium where that's acceptable. Like Charlie Sheen like was removed from 2.5 Men, like he didn't get his own show. They were like, it's the Charlie Sheen show. Watch him do coke and fuck hookers. Yeah. Like, whereas Nikado is being like very much rewarded for his tantrums and outbursts and like breakdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's the same thing. Like he's being rewarded by getting streams on his channels the same way that like Charlie Sheen would have been rewarded if like he was putting out content on his own channel. Like he was getting tons of airtime. So was Kanye. The difference is the only way to get like airtime for Nikado is on his own channel. So like if you want to see like, oh, what's the newest gossip about this person who has fucking mental breakdowns every episode, you can't turn on the news, you turn on his channel, and he's capitalizing it in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe you're right. Probably I'm right. But I think that's a good place as any to kind of put a cap in it, put a stop to it, put a cork in it. We're done. So without any further ado, here's the song that will end the episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. To hear the Captain's Logs in their entirety, become a monthly supporter and join our Patreon, where you'll also get tons of other fun goodies.
Here at Camp, we love talking over great music. If you want to hear more amazing music like the song you're hearing now, be sure to subscribe to all of our playlists on Spotify.
And stay tuned next week for the exciting conclusion of Mukbang Camp.